Greenhouse people? We are back with another episode of Tech on Demand, where our goal is to help you grow your best crops ever. I'm your host, Bill Calkins, and throughout 2026 and maybe beyond, I'm going to catch up with different people in the professional horticulture space and find out a little bit about their careers, their passions, their journeys in the world of plants, and much more. I'm calling these conversations Pick 4 because, as you can guess, I sent each guest a list of 12 questions and they picked 4 to answer and discuss. So today I'm excited to be joined by Shannon Carmody, Director of Plant Pathology at Ball Horticultural Company. Shannon, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Bill.
Before we get started, can you tell the listeners a little bit about your role and maybe what a normal day in the life of a plant pathologist looks like? Although I'm sure you have a lot of not normal days, but what does the day in the life in plant pathology look like?
Yeah, I think one good way to summarize it would be that in ornamental plant pathology, no day looks the same, especially this time of year. But for a lot of people who've used our plant pathology services, diagnostics is maybe the most recognizable thing that we do. And that's where you have a sick plant and you're trying to send it somewhere to figure out what it is. But we do other things too. We virus screen material to make sure that vegetatively propagated plants don't have viruses and are being passed around. We work with breeders to develop new resistant varieties to things like downy mildew or powdery mildews or Phytophthora. We do seed pathology and regulatory pathology, which has a lot to do with how plant material and seed move around international borders and make it through customs and inspections and things like that. And we kind of tie all that together too with production support, which is providing all of those services and then help with sanitation guidelines and things like that for our farms throughout the world. So that's kind of the short story.
No, and that it is such a wide range of different things that you and your team are involved in. How big is the team that you work with?
That's a good question. We have 4 labs, technically.
Okay.
2 here in West Chicago, one that does breeder support and diagnostics, and another here that's the molecular lab that does the virus testing. It's a much cleaner lab. We don't want to let in all the pathogens that we're working with into that lab. So 2 here in West Chicago. We have a lab in Guadalupe with 2 team members working at that on breeder support, and one in Benhausen in the Netherlands with one team member there. So, in West Chicago, we have 3 people dedicated to diagnostics, 2 people working on breeder support, and 1 person working in seed pathology, and 4 people currently working in virus testing.
Okay, so I mean, that's a big team, and it's interesting that you're spread out between West Chicago and California and the Netherlands. Is there a redundancy of what gets done, or do you guys divide up your tasks most of the time, or how does that work?
No, I think we're pretty good at having, like our own areas that we own, but then we want redundancy if someone's out of town or someone just had a baby, which just happened, that those tasks get picked up and you can keep going. Another thing we'll think about too, especially with breeding programs, if a breeding program moves from California to Linda Vista, how do we train up staff to carry those functions in a different location? So we do move things around quite a bit and communicate with each other. There's not a ton of people that do ornamental pathology, and so we really do work well as a team.
No, that's cool. And plant material moves around a lot too, so it makes sense that you guys would operate somewhat like that. And I will say that every time we talk or I listen to you present, I learn something new. And I'm always amazed at the work that you and your team do. It covers such a wide range of research and then just straight up tactical problem solving. So are you ready to get into the 4 questions?
Sure. Let's try this out.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Question number 1. What was your first exposure to horticulture and how did you feel? How did you react? And how did you respond?
Okay. So I didn't know if this was like all the way back to the beginning or if this was like professional.
This is however you want to take it. I mean, you can go back to the beginning or maybe when it became a little bit more professionalized or both.
No, I think this one, I'll go back to the beginning. It was in my grandpa's garden when I was a kid, and we would collect Aqualesia seed out of, like the native, very generic looking little red columbines.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what was so compelling about it is just that, like, wow, look at all this abundance. Like, look at how rich I am. Look how I can, the potential of all of that, you can feel so viscerally, even when you're a kid. And I think I got hooked maybe on that right away. That feeling of working in an industry that is abundant as opposed to something that is more driven by scarcity or something like that.
No, I like that, and you're right. I mean, I actually remember having columbine in our front garden as a kid and being amazed at how it spread every year.
Yeah.
That was a great, and it was probably the same thing, old school
Yeah.
Aqualegia.
Yep.
Yeah, red and white.
Red, just plain red.
That's cool. And how about, I guess I've got to follow up, pathology. How did that become something that you were interested in and when?
That is a good question. I worked for about 10 years in garden seed. And then I went and worked on a fresh produce farm for a while. And I felt like I always kind of liked this balance of plants and people
Hmm.
and the science in people. And by the time I was working on a produce farm and having nightmares of strawberries molding on shelves and constantly on the phone selling things, I was like, I think my balance of people and plants is out of whack. It is all people. At that time, I met this really amazing pathologist, Lindsay DeToy at Washington State University. She brought her class to the farm I was working on. And I was like, I could learn a lot from this person. And so I went to join her program and studied pathology. And I think when it comes to that nexus of people and plants, pathology is right there. And so
That's
it made a
cool.
lot of
It's like a
sense.
good
I didn't know that
balance of
that's what
both.
I wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, and I've always said, like, plant people aren't always people, and which is probably a good thing that our industry has opportunities for both. But you are, like, you strike me as both. But that's cool that you found a good balance with pathology, because I mean, you definitely work a lot with people, and sometimes they're not in a very happy mood because their plants have a problem. But you definitely seem like a kind of person who can handle that and then bring the science right into it.
It's nice to feel needed, you know.
For sure. All right, question number 2. And this is a really good one. I was excited that you picked this one. If you won the lottery and could start a horticulture business from scratch, what would it be and what would it look like?
Are we open to like people funding this vision?
Oh yeah, no, you can have this funded already
You
if
can
you
hand
want.
out my contact information
Yeah.
if someone's really into this. All right, it's very specific. Here's what I want to do. My favorite public garden is in Wayne, Pennsylvania. It's Chanticleer. Have you ever heard
Okay.
of this?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, so it's like 40 something acres. It's not huge. I think it's like the most expensive garden by square foot,
Okay.
public garden by square foot. And they call themselves just like a pleasure garden. That's it. There's no like overriding mission. It's come here, experience plants. So I think if I could have a business, I'd get a nice, beautiful piece of property and just grow the most fun and beautiful and plant nerdy gardens with cool plants. And then you'd walk through that, right? And you just enjoy being around plants. But then there'd be a nursery at the end that would sell you the plants that were kind of at their peak in the
Mhm.
garden when they should be transplanted. Not like bench ready plants, you know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
you take it home, you plant it, and you got to wait that whole year to kind of see that thing that you saw before. So a garden that is just a pleasure to be in, and then, you know, make a ton of money of people's impulse purchases from something beautiful that they saw. Maybe we need like a wine bar back there too.
Right? That would
You
help
know,
encourage the
yeah, there you
purchases.
go.
So where would this be? Would this be in North America or in a certain region or climate? Like, I mean, I've been to some botanic gardens and pleasure type gardens and some pretty interesting, I guess, climates and zones. So where would this be?
Good question. Somewhere with a view. So maybe you need a little topography
Okay.
and maybe somewhere with a little overlap of cool hardwood forest. You could have some different kinds of areas to walk through and different kinds of plants that you'd grow.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm open to where that's going to be. I think there's a lot of, and you know, everywhere you go has their cool things that they can grow, right? Obviously, this would look a lot different in California with all the different Mediterranean crops and
Yeah.
South African plants you can grow there, as opposed to the Midwest. But everywhere has their things.
I like that. And I like the business being more of a kind of a chill place to enjoy plants and just sort of get away from the craziness of life. But then
Yeah.
have an opportunity at the end to take a little piece of that home.
Mhm.
That's really cool. All
Yeah. So
right.
there you have it. There's the
I like
business.
it. I like it. And yeah, if anybody wants to fund that, venture capital firms, someone with deep pockets, get
Right.
in touch and I will put you in
I
touch
just
with.
want a really nice private garden.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. With a nice view. That sounds great. Okay. Question number 3. And this one I think can be open to all sorts of interpretations. So I'm interested where you go with this. But what is something about professional horticulture that annoys you and how would you change it?
Okay, so maybe to connect back to my venture capital idea would be selling plants at the right time for transplant.
Mm,
We want things that look good and grab the customer, but that's not always the best for having them be successful in the garden.
yeah.
I think that's something. If we could train our customers or have plants that, transplant the right time when they're still more vegetative than flowering and things like that to kind of experience that feeling of going through the season and seeing the abundance. I think that would make better gardeners in the long run.
Mm.
But I certainly also appreciate, the Instapot look of coming home and filling your pot on your front porch and things like that.
Yeah. And it strikes me that certainly with perennials, we've moved away from that selling the green perennial that is like, a 1 gallon or a 6-inch green perennial with a nice tag that shows you what it's going to look like,
Mhm.
but it's at the right stage to transplant. You're probably going to wait a year or 3 years to see it really go crazy. And we have moved a lot to the first year flowering type, which I think a lot of times those blooms drop off pretty quick. Are there any plants that you would start with? Like what category would you start with?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, there's certain things that they haven't done this, like take hellebores. I love hellebores, for example.
Mhm.
So this is what I'm going to be. I'm not going to pick the things that maybe are the best sellers. Those you have to, you wait through the winter, and they're the first thing with the flowers that come up, and it's really cool. It's a discovery in the garden.
Yeah.
But they don't always look that great necessarily, or like they're not full flower when you buy them on the
No, it's
bench.
true.
So that's kind of an example
Okay.
of something that's maybe not at its peak. Trying to think if there's any other
Well,
thing.
and I think that, yeah, and hellebores they're very niche, and some there are collectors, people do collect them. They're like a hardcore gardener plant, but you don't see them, well, certainly not in the Midwest, we don't see them a lot, but I think that that's one where when, like, they sell well out of catalogs because they do look beautiful, but it's a tough one at retail. So I think the trick to solving this problem that annoys you is education. Like we
Or a
have to
pleasure
teach.
garden.
Yeah, that's true. I could go right
Yeah.
back to that. I like that.
No, you're right about the education part of that, though.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, yeah. It's like how do we train people while simultaneously getting them excited at the retail location?
right.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
chicken egg thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, on to question number 4, and this is going to be a fun one, is what do you love most about your job? And I've got, like, as I try to predict your answer, like, I don't know. I know you're a problem solver, like I think by
Yeah.
nature, but what is it about your job, the day to day? Because there's got to be a lot of frustration involved too. But what is it that gets you up every morning excited to go in?
I think it's just because we're helping. We're trying to help anyway, I should say. I don't know that I would say that we're always helping. But, someone's coming to us with a problem and we're like, let's figure this out. And if we're able to do that, watching these ideas and these tools that we have, they're very specific, very niche tools be
Hmm.
applied and used. It's really cool. And I think it's really validating. And I was kind of joking earlier when I said it's nice to be needed, but it's also, I watched Slajana back on our team or Bethany or really anybody on our team. The desire to help is a common thread amongst all of the pathology team here. And we do different things every day. We see different samples, we see different problems, we're looking at different countries, all different stages of plants. So I think if you were helping with the same kind of problem every single day, that could become tedious, but it never does because it's always different.
And you mentioned the tools that you guys use. Have the tools and technology changed a lot over the last, say, 3 to 5 years? Like in my mind, from what I've seen, there's a lot more diagnostics being done and I guess being, information being uncovered. But have the tools changed recently? Is there new technology coming in?
There are new technologies. I think it's interesting to think of diagnostics as it's a process
Hmm.
and that there are new tools to help you along at that process. Things like high throughput sequencing, where you can look and find things in the plant that you wouldn't have been able to do before with plating or microscopy or even a PCR assay. But then what does it mean and how is it interpreted? That's still part of the process and the skill set that someone like Slajana brings to the table.
Hmm.
So I don't think the field and the kind of methods that you have to follow hasn't radically changed, but there's always new tools to try and evaluate, new tests, new testing methods, things like that. Like one cool example is we test all of our geraniums that are produced down in Flora regularly for Ralstonia, which is what we're trying to not bring into the U.S.
Yeah.
It's a select agent, not a good pathogen. And the USDA changed their guidelines on testing, and we were able to put this RPA test down at the farm. It's a much more fun thing for the person working in the lab to run. It's cheaper. And so there's always new changing tools like that, which can improve life quality, work-life quality for the people using them.
And then with what I hear about more and more is for growers doing sort of in-house testing, just at the greenhouse, quick tests that they can do using test kits or strips and things like that. Does that help you guys? Does that take work off your plate, or does that add work because there's so much more ability for folks to spot and see potential problems? I don't know if that question makes sense, but I just kind of wondered, like, with all the ability to test my own stuff as a grower, does that help you guys, hinder you guys? How does that?
I think generally it's really helpful. When you're testing things, if you only have 3 tests and they're all viruses, but you actually have a fungal problem, that test isn't going to help you that much. So you still kind of need to know it enough to get started. But if you're looking at geranium and you know what Xanthomonas looks like on geranium, and you have a test strip and you can do that yourself, not have to ship it, not have to wait for a result or all that, I think that's great. That's instantaneous information. That same example, though, if you overstuff one of those test strip pouches and you put too much geranium leaf in there, it's really easy to get a false positive.
Okay.
And so, you could cause a problem that's not even there in some cases. So these are generally really good tools, and I think the closer you can have the test to the sample, the better. But there's always an element of interpretation, even with a clear-cut in-field test.
Yeah, which is why it's good that there's a really strong team in West Chicago that's here to help growers out and to go through that process in a scientific way. So, well, thank you so much. You guys do have a fantastic team. I always look forward to going in and seeing what you guys are up to and hearing all of the exciting things that you're doing. How much time do you spend traveling to different facilities versus working in your home lab here in West Chicago?
That's a good question. There are a few of us who travel more, and then a lot of the folks will be in the lab just handling samples on a regular basis. Alex Batson on our team and I run this audit program where we go to our farms and we check different sanitation protocols and kind of do a little bit of risk management as it relates to disease on our farm. So he and I hit the road quite a bit. All of our scientists, all of our pathologists will attend conferences and things like that too, just to stay up to date on those new technologies or with connections and build relationships and things like that. So Alex and I will hit the road a lot as it relates to farms and R&D locations for breeding new varieties and things like that. So maybe once a month we're out there.
Okay. So you're in the field plenty here, hearing what's going on. And how much, I guess my last question, I'm just hitting you with questions here as they come into my head. How do plant pathologists around our industry, do you hang out with other plant pathologists? Do you collaborate with some of the university pathologists or folks with independent labs and things like that? Is there a lot of information sharing that goes on?
Yeah, pathology is cool as a science because it is collaborative by nature. We are stronger if we know that this location has the same problem that we do, and we can share and learn from that. It's not usually proprietary information. Things like breeder support, maybe we don't go talk to other companies about the products that we're developing. But in terms of hey, are you having a problem moving this seed lot across this border? It's very collaborative, and it really does require us to work as an industry as well as with academic labs and things like that to say, hey, what are the best practices for how to sanitize after a tobamovirus outbreak? People are probably familiar with that this year. And so a number of different researchers, both in the U.S. and internationally, have dealt with that specific example in tomato brown fruit rugose virus. And we can tap into existing resources to help answer those questions. But it is a collaborative science, for sure.
No, that's cool. And I think that is a huge benefit to our industry, is that collaboration. So, well, again, Shannon, thank you so much. I think that was fun. You picked some tough questions and a couple questions that I think gave, just a little bit more understanding of how you view our industry. And I definitely appreciate that. So thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Yep. And I think this wraps up our episode of Tech on Demand, but I can't close without reminding you to subscribe, like, and share the podcast with your peers. There are more than 275 episodes in the archive covering a wide range of topics, truly something for everyone in professional horticulture. Take care out there, and we'll be back with another Pick 4.